All right, we are live. Welcome to Kite Talks. We have an old friend of mine, Patricia Jaecklein, PJ, as a lot of people around the world know her as, and it is on LinkedIn as well.
Yep.
Patricia, fantastic to have you join us. For all the listeners in, Patricia's the Vice President of Global Growth at SDI Sports. An amazing, full of energy person that I remember and I know continues to be the same, traveling around the world, making a difference in sport. Patricia, thank you for taking the time out.
Thank you, Arup. Appreciate it. Thank you for taking the time with me. I'm excited to be here, and yeah, I'm looking forward to answering your questions.
Awesome. I know you're in the middle of a busy day,
Yes.
so we'll try and be as brief as possible. But Patricia, tell me, I want to take a little bit step back.
Mm-hmm.
How did
Mm-hmm.
you get into sport? I know that's also what you've studied, and that's where we met for the first time. Were you always a sports person growing up? How did you jump into kind of the management side, and then we'll kind of segue to where you are at now.
Absolutely. I was always an athlete. So I think I've played every sport known to humans at one point. In high school, had practices before school, after school, and then after practice after school. So it was always a big part of my life, and it kind of shaped who I am today. And then also in university, I played rugby there. So I guess that was like my major sport.
Wow.
It was awesome, and I think it was just like the sense of camaraderie and like I traveled globally with that as well. So that always stuck with me, was like the opportunities that sport kind of allowed you to have as an athlete. So I wanted that to transition in my work, I think, life as well, considering that we spend most of the time doing that. So but what really flipped the switch for me was I'm going back to my first job in a bakery at an apple orchard. And my boss asked me what
Wow.
I wanted to do. And then he basically actually told me what I should do, which was you need to do something in sport and you need to do something with people. So that literally, that short conversation was, I can remember it to this day, exactly where I was standing. And that really was where it all started, for sure. Mm-hmm.
Amazing. What
Yeah.
if I may ask, what year would that be?
Oh, am I going to age myself?
2007? 6?
No, no, no. I would say that was, I was working. So when I was 16, we're going back
Oh,
to
wow. Okay.
97.
Close to okay. Nice. Awesome.
No,
No, no.
hey,
And no,
I
and the
I act
reason
like
I
I'm
bring that
12.
up,
So
no, no, the reason I bring that up is
yeah,
it's really awesome when people have that kind of realization early,
yeah,
right? Because it gives you so much more clarity as to like what you want to
absolutely.
do, what you want to head, all the decisions you make after that. And
100%. Yeah, and you're exactly right. I would say I shaped by that. So through high school and university, I was like, I need to be a sports doctor. So that's kind of what I
Mhm.
focused on. I did all the pre-medical stuff and studied it all. So the chemistries, the biochemistries. And then coming from more of a business-sided family, I did a postgraduate where I ended up at an internship with a sports team and was in marketing. And then that's kind of, I never stopped working. So I just kept going from there. So I went from, I think I've worked for all the teams in Toronto. So that being the CFL, the NBA, the MLS, like I was always involved in sports there. And then came a few years after that, I came to you in New York. So we did the NYU, we did our masters together there. And then actually since NYU is where I've landed at this agency. So I've been at the same agency for the last 13 years. Mm-hmm.
Amazing.
Yeah.
Wow. What if I take one step back before we jump into STI? What
Yeah.
what brought you to New York? I mean, was that something that you had thought through? Like, okay, I'm going to do a master's, and why NYU and why New York City?
Absolutely. So for me, I always had it in my head that in order to move up, I had to move out. kind of. So like,
Yeah.
and I think back then it was more so the masters was, I wouldn't say as sports masters wasn't as common back then. I would
Yep.
say
Wasn't.
now we're seeing programs, awesome programs all over.
Yep.
So, and New York, of course, mecca of sport. It has all
Yeah.
the league offices there, all the teams. So it was kind of that's what attracted me to New York specifically, because the real world experience that it would offer you at the same time going to school. So while I was at school, I was actually working at Madison Square Garden,
Yeah.
again, the mecca of sport, and awesome. So during Linsanity. So
Yeah.
that was a lot of fun.
That's true.
But yeah, and I think so. I think in my mind, I thought having a master's with experience, because I did have about 5 years experience working, it would just kind of galvanize my trajectory, and
Yeah.
it
Yeah.
did. So I always say do a little more experience before you do your master's
Yeah.
versus doing it right after school.
No,
Mhm.
perfect. And so,
Yeah.
jumping to SDI, so
Mhm.
that's so the agency is headquartered in Canada. Correct me if I'm
Yeah,
wrong.
in Toronto. Yeah.
In Toronto, and I mean, you've been there now over a decade, and I've obviously followed your journey on LinkedIn and
Yeah.
throughout, and you've had the opportunity to travel a lot. Tell us a little, maybe some anecdotes from the time there, and
Yeah.
before I jump to the
Of course.
FIFA World Cup.
Yeah, absolutely. So I started out as an account supervisor on the Pepsi contract, which was amazing, because what my role there was all the Pepsi sports contracts that PepsiCo had in Canada, we
Yeah.
were delivering. So I just made sure that they used every single asset they had in their contract, and that did a lot of national travel. We worked at the Grey Cups, at the NHL games, at what else do we have? Because we did both Pepsi and food. Oh, of course, the different CFL teams. So it just allowed us to then take our programs, and then we also went into the US because we did sales programs. So then we
Right.
would go to the Super Bowls and to the All Stars and things like that. So as a sports fan, dream job,
That's
walking
true.
into that one.
Yeah.
So it was great, and I would say we got to push the envelope a lot too. Like we with creative and brand, and we and events, and we also did like a lot of sampling at that time. So I did that about for 2 years, and then I
Wow.
was approached about a role overseas. And when they asked me if I wanted to come to Doha, I wasn't really sure what they were speaking of, but I
True.
learned very quickly, because 3 weeks later, I was here. So, yeah, and I spent, I would say, a better of 10 years now, like since 2013.
Mm-hmm.
I spent most of my time in the Middle East, in Qatar.
Wow.
Yes. I did come back for a quick stint before COVID, and I ran our national broadcast hockey program, which was
Mm-hmm.
hometown hockey
Yep.
for our broadcast communications. So I did that. And then during COVID, we launched two sub agencies, I would say, or brands, sub brands, not agencies, sub brands, which was SDI Sports
Yep.
and the Football Collective.
Yeah.
So, and
Amazing.
that was now, I think, where we're headed was leading up to the World Cup. So we launched those brands in 2019 with a
Super.
big push towards the World Cup.
Amazing. And
Mm-hmm.
I think you've seen, I mean, since you've been there now, at least in the Middle East for that long,
Mm-hmm.
you've seen a huge shift, right? You've seen where I mean, there's infrastructure being developed. There's, I mean, the intent exists, and you see them bringing in professionals like yourself from all over the world
Mm-hmm.
to really step up the game, and now you're seeing it with Saudi, and
Yeah,
it's a very different ball game. People don't realize when you're sitting outside. You think, okay, it
yeah,
might be just this kind of bubble, but in fact it's not. I mean, they're doing a lot of work across many levels, aren't they?
absolutely. So I would say, if I had to give a quick synopsis of my time in Qatar, it was almost like it's not for the faint-hearted for sure, because it's wildly different in so many ways, but as you said, the intent is there, the intent to be the best, the intent to do everything right, and watching the World Cup being awarded, and then watching a country prepare for it, and all of the positives that have come out of that because of sport, and how it brought a global community together, not only for the final result for the
Yep.
month tournament, but for the 10 years to get it to that point was really, I call it adult university, because you meet so many people
Yeah.
in such a short time, and it's up to you to make your experience, right? And so that's kind of my analysis of my time in Qatar, but I'm still here, so clearly I love it. And we're always peeking over the border. We're actually are opening now an office in Riyadh as well.
Okay.
And it's just immense what sports is doing for the Middle East and the
Yep.
region, and being a part of that change and a part of that positive way forward, and helping them get to the vision, they have a 2030 vision, is
Yep.
just it's very satisfying for myself. So I'm excited well, they're going to probably have a 2050 vision soon, so it'll be good.
Awesome, awesome.
Mhm.
FIFA World Cup,
Yes.
Qatar. I mean, in lead up, there was a lot of talk, good, bad, everything. I
Hmm.
attended the World Cup I was there for a week, and absolutely amazing, right? The
Oh,
show, everything that was put on. I mean, they really, really uh, delivered a tournament unlike any other, I would think, because I've been
absolutely.
to Russia and Brazil, but this one
Hmm.
was different. You could feel it. Uh,
Yeah.
Tell us about the experience on ground in lead up, maybe some cool activations that you guys did. I know
Uh-huh.
you got selfies with the FIFA president. I mean, I know there's a lot of stories there, but yeah, you can
Yeah.
maybe throw some in there for us.
I think at one point he thought I was stalking him because I was everywhere where he was. No, no. So I would say that I had some career milestones with this World Cup, and it started back in April 1st with the draw. The
Yep.
show that draw put on, and the reveal of the mascot, and everyone didn't know how Laib would
Right.
turn out as a
Right.
digital mascot, but you could not but fall in love with that mascot during the tournament. So
True.
it was just like they'd push the envelope, and then like they would pull you in, and then the product on the field was second to none. There were upsets, there were Cinderella stories. Like, you couldn't have scripted the product on the field better.
Couldn't.
And
Yeah.
we were fortunate enough, I think I was at 16 matches, which was incredible. Probably definitely the most I've ever been to in a very short time. But as far as activations and the lead up, so Qatar's a small country with
Yeah.
not very much resource. So again, it took a village. All of us agencies work together. All of us vendors work together, because we are all wanting to put on a show for the world, and
Yes.
it panned out in spades. It
Yeah.
was incredible having all the fans in one spot, being able to watch multiple games during the day, and then just having that volume, being to see our work. So,
Yeah.
which then allowed us to do a lot more work since then. So the activations, we worked with a lot of the confederations. So we
Yeah.
did work for CONCACAF.
I saw that. Yes. Amazing.
Yeah. So we needed to, I guess, make noise in something that was so saturated already in football. So we're like, we're not doing football. We're going to do a cafe, because what more brings fans together than food? So we
Nice.
launched the Conka Cafe. So we did that. It was wildly successful. We had a lot of coverage on that. I think we brought a lot of fans together. We did interesting food launches every so often with it was basically culinary creations from the CONCACAF nations. So we did 41
Wow.
flavors and just mashed them together. It was awesome. Then we also did the Tree of Dreams for Common Ball,
Okay.
and just showed the rich history of football in a very unique way, doing like an interactive museum in very colorful, vibrant, like favela style in a ultra modern area of Doha. So it really was a juxtaposition and hit hard. I believe I can confidently say it was like the #1 attended activation outside of
Amazing.
the official
Nice.
FIFA one. So massively successful, again, globally recognized. So I'll get back to that one after, because that one led to a lot of more work. And then we were in the fan zone with Kia and did their footprint in the FIFA fan zone. And that was a great journey with Kia, because we actually worked with their agency in Ocean and worked on the strategy a year before. So that was a really long time coming. So we helped them with their strategy and then on site as well. So
the
that
Kia
was
activation was also like, I mean, they also do the museum in the fan zone?
that they did. Hyundai did.
Oh, Hyundai did. Okay, okay, yeah, right,
Yeah.
right, right, right,
So
right.
yeah, so they did it. So they were like across the street from our activation. We did. It was mini football golf.
Yeah, yeah. I remember. I
And then it
guess.
was like the journey with all the different stadiums, and
Yeah.
then they launched their EV9 car, and then we
Nice.
also had a like a digital activation throughout.
Yeah.
And then the best one that no one even knows about, we actually worked with Nike delivering all the football boots to their athletes.
Oh,
And it's a
wow.
really interesting
Oh, interesting.
role, because again,
Wow.
so yeah, it was awesome. So we had a guy completely dedicated to Nike to deliver boots. So we can claim that we assisted Mbappe's hat trick.
Nice,
We delivered
nice.
those boots. Yeah, no. So it's just we saw, I think, the World Cup from so many angles,
Yeah,
whether it was from confederations or the brand or things like behind the scenes with Nike,
yeah,
like we
yeah.
just touched it. And then one of our very long standing clients, the Qatar Football Association, we've been working with them for the past 7 years, readying them for the tournament commercially. So we did all their commercial partnerships
Right.
in partnership with them, and brought new partners on board and just new programs, and really brought that to the forefront. So, and we also rebranded them a bit, just refreshed. Yeah. So
Nice.
yeah, I think, and so that was World Cup 2022. Bit of a blur, but very satisfying.
No, I can totally imagine.
Mhm.
Now, so a lot of the audience here is
Mhm.
working in sport, mid to senior level, a lot of students as well, and
Yeah.
lot of people saw the World Cup, saw the
Mhm.
activation, saw the way brands activated. But I think you
Mhm.
being on ground, if you can tell us a little bit about post World Cup, right? How did the brands now, did they evaluate what they did? What kind of numbers did they see? Did that translate into saying, okay, we can do this again, or we can do this in another tournament? I mean, and as an agency, obviously, you're continuing to think and innovate and ideate, right, on all of this. So, I mean, and
Yeah.
it's been a year. So I guess it's, I don't know how 1 year has flown since the World Cup, but
Yeah, I know. It's so funny because like the clients that we have, they, of course, what was 6 months later? The Women's World Cup.
exactly.
So it was a quick nap and
Yeah.
shift over. So we ended up doing a Women's World Cup version of CONMEBOL called the Footsteps of Passion
Okay,
in
nice.
Sydney. So literally nap and go.
Wow.
And it was incredible, again, and showing the rich history of female football,
Mm-hmm.
and just bringing them to the forefront. And just, again, I think they were probably one of the only federations that came out that big, but it just, again, showed how, I think we're all seeing how women's sport in general is
Oh,
rising up to the
yep.
top, and is a
Completely.
big investments from brands
Yes.
and broadcast and things like that. So again, riding on that wave, I believe we're helping navigate that ecosystem for a lot of the brands as
Yeah.
well, of when is the right time to come in, so it doesn't look like they're just jumping on the bandwagon. It's an
Yeah.
authentic connection that makes a difference for the fans as well. So I would say post World Cup, our work didn't slow down because it went to Women's World Cup. So it was just like a quick shift pivot. But I would say if I speak from Qatar, I think they needed to take a breather. Things did slow down. It was like any other major global event. I think there was a lot of evaluation and a lot of like, how can we, what's the next thing now? And I think what we're seeing now is kind of, again, with the Asian Cup right now, and which is what I'm working on today. And then of course, there's at the same time are the FIFA World Championships that are now 2 weeks from now. And there, you just see the sport is continuing to thrive over in the Middle East. And I feel it is becoming the place to be and to host, because it's a really stunning country, easy to get around. As far going back to your metrics conversation, I know we did a lot of post analysis as far as digital impressions. And of course, I think they probably had the most highly attended activations, because you had the entire audience in what, a 25-kilometer radius, maybe 30, 40, right? So that was ideal for the brands. Now, 2026, it is quite the opposite. So that's another challenge that we're sorting out, is where do they show up? When do they show up, right? So, and it's an equation. It's like a algorithm.
True.
But yeah, and I think that's what everyone's looking to, because the success of this model is definitely not being replicated the next World Cup. It's quite different. I would say the Women's World Cup was also split across the two, but not as vastly. You saw Sydney really highlighting up at the end, where everyone was more so playing for the final, and just watching Australia go almost all the way was really exciting. Yeah, but I think data is king. So for sure. So we are trying to get as much as we can when we can. And I think that is the way forward too, because when it's in black and white, it's hard to ignore, right?
Patricia, I mean, we're nearing the end. And I know we've talked about World Cup, we've talked about activations. I want to go back to you, right? I mean, an agency world is a fast-paced, like, I mean, non-stop, you said, right? It's a quick nap, then another World Cup, now Asian Cup. When do you take time? When do you slow down? Do you ever slow down? How does it work? I mean, how do you keep up with, I mean, this adrenaline in this super fast-paced sports world that we live in, you know?
Yeah. Honestly, I think that day in the bakery where my boss nailed what I should do, it's the fact that it's my passion, and I enjoy it so much. Like what we're doing today and building for AFC Cup, it's long hours, it's long days, but it's just everyone has the energy of seeing something come to fruition. And for me now, with this role as global growth, it's super exciting to literally have the world as my oyster, and being able to find that white space that we can play in, and not in just football. Of course, football is a low-hanging fruit because we are very good at it, but what is that next sport? I think cricket is on our list for sure.
I like that.
So we have been dabbling into that already, but what about paddle, right? So, and those those other emerging sports that we're looking at, and hey, we don't even know what the next sport is in that sense. And I think just I have an endless thirst of like knowledge kind of thing. So whether I'm reading something or I'm flying somewhere, I'm always asking questions, and I think it just keeps me alive. But downtime, yeah, that's hard to come between, because I think most things happens on holidays and weekends, right?
That's true. Yeah.
But overall, like, yeah, completely satisfied. Insane.
Amazing.
Yeah.
And I mean, I totally get it. At the end of the day, it's such a passion driven industry that everybody, when we come together, it's amazing, and magic happens, you know. It's and everyone's like there for the right reason, not really having the wrong motive. So it's awesome, and that's why, I mean, things like the World Cup it's the World Cup,
It,
so awesome.
yeah,
Um,
no, it's
yeah, go
great.
ahead, go ahead.
No, I was just saying, like, it's also seeing all our other friends from NYU coming together, right? Because we're
Yeah,
all in different spaces. So absolutely right. And that kind of recharges your batteries again, right? Because you just see
totally.
everyone else's successes and how can you help them be successful? And I
Yeah,
get like it's just yeah, I love it.
awesome. So
Hmm.
last question. Any advice for upcoming sports business enthusiasts who are contemplating whether they should pursue further studies or whether jump into sport, and maybe a little bit maybe advice to some of the mid to senior level folks who are finding it tough to cope, because I like I said, I've been following your
Yeah,
journey, and I know the energy doesn't stop, and
yeah,
that's so awesome, and
yeah.
I can and we've just from this chat, like I'm feeling energized.
Well, I would say for the young youth or the young people trying to get into the industry, what I learned late um, was you're your own megaphone, because I was more of those people that were kind of sitting behind, like, no, my work's going to prove itself and it's going to show, which it does, of course.
Of course.
But you do need to speak about it. You do need to speak about what you want to do so they know that you are eager to get ahead or eager to be into the next role and things. So I would say
Yes.
you're your own, you're your best megaphone. So that's one of the things. And then I remember with sport, um, going to networking, like your network is your net worth, and
Mhm.
that is 100% accurate.
Yeah.
So even if it's calling up your dream role and asking for an informational interview, I do those all the time.
Yeah.
And I think a lot of us in the sports industry do that. So not to be afraid, shoot your shot is another thing I could say. So megaphone and shoot your shot. And for us executives, I would say don't be afraid of that really highly technological, digital savvy youth. Because
Fair enough.
I'm aging myself again, because I'm a bit of a dinosaur in that side, and like embrace all this new technology that's coming on board,
Yeah.
and embrace the people that are bringing experiences that you don't necessarily have. So it's again like you could either be afraid of it or embrace it, and I'm saying embrace it and see how it can fit within your ecosystem, your
Yeah.
network, and go together. So I see a lot, like recently I've seen a lot of collaboration in order to rise, in that sense, and I think that's the way forward, even though we may be competitors at some time.
True.
Yeah.
Amazing, amazing.
Mm-hmm.
This chat has been like super energetic. I know you also you got a dart, but fantastic. I really appreciate you taking the time out for us, PJ. And I know the conversation will continue. I know we'll cross paths in the near future, somewhere in the Middle East or India for that matter. Who knows where life's
Absolutely.
gonna take you? But thank you so much.
No problem. Thank you for giving me the time and using your platform. I really enjoyed it.